Since reviving the Passport name a few years ago, Honda has always alluded to the Passport SUV as being its most off-road ready offering. And now, with a crucial refresh for 2022, the most important thing you need to know about the revised spec sheet of this large two-row SUV is the inclusion of the new Trailsport trim, which Honda says adds an extra injection of personality and off-road flair into its larger SUVs. So what better place to take the new Trailsport than one of my favorite dusty trails in the outskirts of Los Angeles to see how this thing works on and off-road. So I suspect a quick refresher might be in order for a lot of people watching this video. Honda's SUV hierarchy includes the smaller HR-V, the slightly larger CR-V, and then this Passport and the biggest Honda Pilot upon which the Passport is based. That means the Passport has the same basic hardware as the three-row Pilot SUV, but in a shorter two-row form factor. We have independent suspension at all four corners, and in this case, all-wheel drive is still optional for some reason. I'm not sure who'd buy a front-wheel drive Passport or a front-wheel drive Pilot, but hey, there you go. And of course, this Trailsport does have all-wheel drive, as you might expect from the name. Under the hood, we have the venerable, tried and true J35 3.5-liter V6 engine that is good for 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. Regular viewers to this channel no doubt know of the legacy of the J-Series V6. Now, 25 years running, Honda's continually refined this engine and it's been proven to be one of the most durable and resilient engines around. These things will easily do hundreds of thousands of miles with no problem. Just don't forget to change the timing belt every now and again because yes, this single overhead cam design still features a timing belt even after all these years. How quaint. Thoroughly modern, on the other hand, is the new 9-speed automatic transmission sourced from supplier ZF in Germany, to which that engine is paired to. I'll talk more on the powertrain in a second because no doubt you want to hear opinions on that 9-speed unit. After all, it's probably the newest piece of hardware at play here. But since we're doing a bit of off-roading, we should talk about some off-roading stuff. Interestingly, despite this being a trail sport, and despite this being the introduction of the new Trailsport trim, you can get a Pilot Trailsport 2 now for 2022, Honda hasn't thrown many mechanical changes at this Passport Trailsport. It still has standard Passport suspension, which gives it the same 8.1 inches of ground clearance as any other Passport model. And similarly, the four-wheel drive system has been left completely alone. Honda says it's more than sufficient for tackling trails like this. What they have upgraded is, as many enthusiasts will agree, the most important part, the footwear. The Trailsport is the only Passport model that gets downsized wheels. This guy rolls on 18s versus 20s on other trim levels, and those 18-inch wheels are shod in a slightly more aggressive all-season tire. And that's it for hardware changes. Interestingly enough, Honda's kind of decided, well, the Passport is already an outdoorsy, adventurous model. It's pretty much good to go. And to be frank, for how most people will use this thing, they are technically right, though it does feel a bit underwhelming when you consider things like the Subaru Outback Wilderness I recently reviewed on this channel has a lot more upgrades and off-road hardware and does feel like a more cohesive rig as a result, but oh well. If the Trailsport's lack of hardware upgrades seem like a slight disappointment, well, maybe consider that Honda's onto something here. You see, as fun as it is having your outdoorsy and active lifestyle, the fact of the matter is 99% of the miles put on these things will be done on pavement like this. And it's really on the pavement that this thing needs to work, you know, because you're going to be commuting and going to the grocery store and shuffling your family around in this thing. And that's where it needs to work. That's much more important in the grand scheme of things. Though with any consolation prize, Honda Performance Development, sort of rogue arm of American Honda that takes Honda's offerings to the racetrack, has actually campaigned a basically stock Passport just like this one in a series of stage rallies across the country, with, interestingly, the only notable hardware upgrade basically being what they've done with the Trailsport here. They downsized the wheels and put a more aggressive tire on this thing. And they basically say, you know, the factory cooling package is adequate, and once you throw some brake pads at it, the brakes are good to go, and that's basically all it needs. So I guess that's a reassuring sign, all things considered, from American Honda, that the Passport can do what you want it to do when you want it to do it. And fortunately, when you're on terra firma here, the Passport's pretty dang good. Like I mentioned before, the J-Series V6 is an absolute asset to this thing. It's so smooth, it makes a really nice noise, and the pulling power is adequate. Though I will say, the more time I spend with this new 9-speed transmission, the less I like it, sad to say. For the most part, it's a smooth operator, though it does occasionally get a bit confused at low speeds. It's almost as if it's kind of wondering what to do, what gear to give me. And then there's the fuel economy. Now, the EPA rates this combination at 19 mpg city, 24 mpg freeway, and 21 mpg combined. And as per usual, I've done real-world MPG testing on the Passport, and after 280 miles, I refueled this thing up. And despite driving quite a lot more freeway miles than I normally do, this thing just cracked 19 miles to the gallon. I'm talking 19.0. It just barely made it in line with those estimates. Benefit of the doubt, maybe the fact this test car is so fresh. There's only 700 miles in the odometer. Maybe the engine isn't fully broken in yet. It's not quite in its optimal spot for efficiency and performance. Though I suppose if you compare it to something like the Toyota 4Runner, not the full TRD Pro, that's more expensive and much more capable off-road, but say like the TRD Off-Road Premium, that's a good apples to apples competition in terms of pricing and packaging and things like that. The Passport does have a slight edge in efficiency just because that Toyota basically brought a knife to a gunfight with that old 5-speed automatic transmission and the old 4-liter V6 rather than one of the newer Toyota V6 engines instead. But does score highly in other areas. The interior, for example, is a real strong suit here that espouses a lot of the current values and things I find good about a lot of the modern Honda lineup. The fit, finish, and presentation is pretty good, though this particular test car is a combination of black on black on black on black, which is far from my favorite. Still, things look quite nice in here. This Trailsport is nicely equipped at 44 grand exactly as tested, the only option being the Sonic Gray Pearl paint job. We have features like leather seats with Trailsport trim and matching orange stitching, because apparently orange means off-road now. It's the same for the Subaru Wilderness and for like Nissan. They're incorporating the same color as well for their 4X trucks. Beyond that, of course, these seats are heated, and then we have features like an 8-inch touchscreen here with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity along with wireless phone charging down here. But the real thing I like is the amount of storage in here. This center console has a really deep storage thing down here that actually fits my absolutely enormous water bottle that doesn't really fit anywhere in most cars. I can lay it down flat in this thing. And I also just like how get in and go the Passport is. Everything in this cabin is so straightforward, intuitive, and simple. It is just a car you can hop into, understand where the controls are, what they do, and how everything works in here. It's no fuss. And I bring that up because more often than not, modern cars, modern trucks, and modern SUVs have started to become overwrought and overly complicated. So the simplicity in here is definitely virtuous. It also helps that because Passport shares a platform with the larger Pilot, this thing is so spacious. I am 6'1". I very comfortably fit in all 4 seats of the Passport. The trunk space is cavernous, 44 cubic feet, and that almost doubles when you fold the rear seats down. It is huge back there. The utility is impossible to ignore here. But the notion of the Passport's utility and ability to match the lifestyles of the people who buy it isn't just coming from my opinion, the guy who reviews a bunch of cars every year, but it's actually coming from Honda customers. You see, Honda sent me a bunch of interesting stats about the new Passport, and the one that really caught my eye was the fact that 7 out of 10 trade-ins for the Passport are other Honda vehicles. These are existing Honda customers who are upgrading up the hierarchy, as it were. And that's exactly what brands want. They really want to keep you in the fold. They want to start you in the Civic or an Accord, and then over time, as your lifestyle changes or you add members to your family or whatever, you upgrade into their bigger vehicles and more expensive ones like the Passport. And so in that regard, they're kind of nailing it, aren't they? Overall, I think this refresh Passport and the introduction of this Passport Trailsport trim is a successful move by Honda. There are a lot of virtuous things here. Honda enthusiasts will no doubt be attracted to the proven track record of the J Series V6 under the hood, making this a pretty painless ownership experience in theory. And things like the sharper styling and the nice interior do genuinely make it a very comfortable thing to use and drive every day. Add in the fact it's comfortable, quiet, and refined overall, and it generally does seem like a great option, albeit one that does feel just a bit less special than some other off-road inspired alternatives like the aforementioned Outback Wilderness. So there it is, the 2022 Honda Passport Trailsport is comfortable, refined, and capable enough for your outdoorsy and adventurous lifestyle, all while offering little to no concessions for day-to-day use. And so I suppose it's about time for me to wrap this one up, guys. My name is Jake. You have been watching Drive, Break, Fix, Repeat, and I'll see you guys next time where I go do more fun things with cars. Bye.